DeSclafani, I'd be fine with playing at 7,900. They're in San Francisco against Colorado, so I'm not as worried since it's not in Coors. He already handled this team easily once already this year, earlier in the year, so I could see myself looking at him if I was playing, more than 2 or 3 lineups. I could definitely see myself playing a DeSclafani lineup. I love Buster Posey. I'm glad to hear DC, it's his favorite play on the slate because he's the first guy that kind of stuck off the page. Jared Walsh against Jordan Lyles, I could go to at 4.3. I think for the most part, shortstop's going to be a spend-up spot for me. I could see myself just going right to Corey Seager, 5,100.
What's going on, everybody? Welcome to the MLB Swing for the Fences show. I'm your host, Mangone. I'm here to talk about today's 5-game baseball slate. And it's a decent slate. 5 games, not a ton, but we will break it all down for you and discuss it. Before we dive in, we got Titletown here. We got DraftKings. We're going to go to DC first. DC, I want you to tell me about last night's absolute debacle with the White Sox. I heard everyone going nuts, and I still don't even know the full story. I was playing NBA and locked into that, so I wanted to get your whole take on everything.
Well, listen, I mean, what happened was the White Sox game, Carlos Rodon was going to be a very popular pitcher. White Sox were popular hitters. And then I think the game got postponed, like 10 minutes before lock time. And then DraftKings sent a tweet that they were pushing back the lock of those players so that you could swap players out, which I don't know. I've had a lot of, I've taken risks before on rain games, got those games rained out. Apparently they changed their terms and conditions recently where this is a thing. I mean, I don't know. I play baseball, MLB DFS every single day. I've never seen it before. So I was a little, I didn't have any White Sox, right? But I was just a little angry that if you were risking it, if you weren't paying attention, you got away with it. But, apparently I'm in the wrong. So apologies to DraftKings. Please don't ban my account. I'm playing on your site today. I'm back. It's all good. And it is what it is, I guess.
Yeah, was that an 8 o'clock start? So it was like at 8. I guess it was an 8:10 game. Then like at 8:07, they just basically decided, hey, like we're raining out the game.
It was an hour after lock, and I mean, it was just a big question mark. Rodon was the best pitcher on the slate, I thought. I actually approve of the policy. I just I don't know. I just wasn't aware of it. Yeah.
Yeah, I think the reason I think they do that too is I think because at least I know from a weather perspective, the MLB makes all the decisions until the game starts. And then once the game actually starts, it's all in the ump's hands. And then the ump makes all the decisions going forward on if the game goes or doesn't go going forward. So I think they basically make the decision that once it starts, then it's hey, the umps have an impact on the strikes and balls. So they have an impact on the game and they kind of just put it all baked in. But that is interesting that they did that. And I guess that's something to note going forward, right? When building out your lineups, we can take more risks, I guess, and maybe people won't realize that.
Well, but if the game starts in delay and then is postponed after lock, then you can't swap, I guess. It's got to be before. I don't know. I'm still honestly confused as to what exactly the policy is. Obviously, it's something we need to figure out going forward. Clearly, I didn't know what it was and still am unclear kind of what's going on. But we'll figure it out.
All right, Title, how about you? Did you participate in the baseball craziness last night?
Well, yeah, I played baseball, but I just avoided that game completely. I like the Yankees. I like Glass now, so I avoided it. But I'm with DC, where I did not know that was a rule. I mean, in any sport,
nobody did, right? Nobody knew it.
I've never seen it. And with MMA, when guys are ruled out after lock, I mean, it happened 2 weeks ago, and the fights don't even happen until 30 minutes after. There's no lock pushed back for any other stuff. I mean, no one knew it. It is what it is, I guess. Yeah, we got a 4-game slate though. It's all right. I mean, it's not a great slate, but 4 games. We'll dive through it. Earlier only is going pretty good. My dong of the day, Trey Mancini, came through. So yeah, good start to early so far. I know DC has something going on tomorrow. I'm sure he'll get to it. I don't think he's wearing a hat because he wants to enjoy his last day with some hair on top.
Yeah.
Is this happening? I heard JT told me. Are you losing your hair? You claimed to eat a hat once, and I'm still waiting for the hat to be eaten. But I get why you haven't eaten the hat. But is the head going to be shaved? Tell the people about what
I will fulfill my duties on my next show with JT. It won't be tomorrow. I'm moving tomorrow, actually today too. Still a little busy, but my next show with JT, I will take a Manscaped 9000 buzzer to my head live on air. We'll make a little sponsorship out of it, and no hat today, showing the people what hair I got left here. Won't be for long. I said if Matt Chapman hit a home run off my guy Shane McClanahan, I would shave my head live on air. He did indeed do just that, and that bet will be fulfilled next week sometime.
All right, well, we'll have to see. It'll be fun. Be sure to tune in and like and subscribe to the video. Subscribe so you can see it happen live on air, so DC can lose some hair, and it'll be a fun time. Anything else you guys want to talk about? Do you want to talk NFL draft? I know me and Title were talking about a little before. What do you think your Vikings are going to do, DC? You got any hot takes on the NFL draft for us?
I got nothing on the NFL draft. I do not know what pick the Vikings have. I think I could name, I don't know, just from being on Twitter, maybe 4 to 5 players in the draft total. So no hot takes here from me.
Yeah, I'll give you the stone locked. Trevor Lawrence, number 1. Now that's
there we go. I could have given you that, but that's about it for me. Who's going number 2?
Parlay that with Zach Wilson. I'll give you a parlay on the show too. Zach Wilson goes second.
Zach Wilson 2. 3, I've heard, Trey Lance, Justin Fields. Who's it going to be?
Mac Jones is the other one too. Trey Lance is getting the steam right now, looks like.
I heard Pat McAfee on his show, which is sponsored by the FanDuel Sportsbook. So who knows what shenanigans are being up to there. Pat McAfee said, my sources say there's no chance Mac Jones is going 3rd. And so I don't know, everything's just going nuts with that. So we'll see who ends up getting drafted.
What pick do the Vikings have?
I'm not sure, Title. Do you know that one?
I don't know exactly. I'll tell you, DC, is you won't have as good of a first round pick as you did last year. So that's about as a lot.
I'll give you that. Yeah,
that's about. Yeah, I mean that's my boy too. He's a stud. So that's the one lock I'll give you as well. Yeah. And then for the draft, I mean, I'm just very still hurt about what came out with Rodgers. I know we were talking about a pre-show.
Tell me about that. I've been seeing all these rumors, but I don't actually know the story. So we got time. It's a 4-game slate.
Yeah. So I'll go. I mean, Rodgers, obviously with last year them drafting Love, Rodgers hasn't been very happy in Green Bay, it seemed, for a little bit of time. I mean, they haven't done him any favors drafting receivers and all that stuff. So he didn't like the draft. And they haven't got it done in the Super Bowl and stuff. And I guess today it came out, Schefter, 20 minutes ago, said Rodgers wants out of Green Bay pretty much. Wow. And Schefter, I mean, it blew up for sure. And I mean, Mangone and I look at it differently because I've been saying this for a while. I think Rodgers is gone whenever he can. I mean, he doesn't love Green Bay. Why stay in Green Bay? It's not family. It's cold weather. Packers haven't treated him great. Mangone's calling his bluff a little bit, saying, hey, this means Rodgers needs a receiver in the first round. He's going to stay another year. Mangone, I hope you are right, but I'm very nervous.
Let me explain. I think Rodgers is going to be the guy that does not stay in Green Bay his whole career. I do think he ends up leaving at some point. I just don't think, unless the Niners somehow pull it off, I don't think there's anywhere else that he would want to go and would be able to win a title right away. Why would you just go randomly to some place that you can't win? Only place I could see is the Niners. So I think, and DC, get that conspiracy theory hat on. This just leaked out to the media, right? Well, don't you think Rodgers just leaked it out so he can make sure they don't screw up this time and get a real receiver and one of the best receiver drafts they've ever had? I mean, it's not that bad of a take, right?
I like the take, Mangone. And I would say if you're the Packers front office, Aaron Rodgers, if he's like, I want this receiver, wouldn't you be like, okay? I mean,
you would
literally why wouldn't they do that the past 4 years?
No, I know. I mean, I think he's understandably upset, right? Didn't they just waste all their picks last year? They picked their 3rd string running back, AJ Dillon, and
it went backup quarter, 3rd string backup quarterback, 3rd string running back. You threw a fullback. You threw a fullback / tight end in there that was third string, like literally the worst draft of the history. And the Packers are still there, a game away from the Super Bowl.
Right.
Rodgers with nobody but Adams, Scantling. I mean, he should be angry. He should. I mean, the Packers don't deserve him. It's hurtful. If I have to watch the Packers,
this reminds me. I'm a Timberwolves fan. This reminds me of when Kevin Garnett won it out of Minnesota. And it's like, I don't blame him. You know, like they've put nothing around you for all these years. Like I'm a Wolves fan, but like I get it. You know, go win a championship. That's fantastic. Obviously, you know, you're a Packers fan, you're a Rodgers fan, but like you can put aside your fandom for a second and recognize they've made some.
He got screwed
last few years. Yeah.
Oh yeah, it's career's definitely been wasted a bit. It happens to a lot of talented players, right? It definitely does. So it's unfortunate, but hey, we'll have to see. Troy in the chat is saying, please, baseball. Like, dude, it's a 5-gamer. We'll get there.
No, it's a 4-gamer. The White Sox isn't even on the slate, so.
No,
I don't know why not either. This game was like rescheduled last night. And
I don't know why either.
Oh,
but.
yes, I see what you're saying. Yeah, I guess it is a 4-gamer. So yeah, even worse. I can't count. So 4-gamer, we will get to it. Don't worry. But yeah, I'm with you, DC. It is unfortunate. Kevin Garnett's a great example of it. It happens to a lot of guys. You know, it almost happened to Paul Pierce, right, with Boston until they finally made that final push and got them that title. And yeah, so that's kind of how it all.
All right. So in the chat, this is what bothered me. Someone said, I'm from Wisconsin. Rodgers a big baby. It's time for him to get out. I mean,
no, he's not.
I mean, that's the stuff I like. LeBron, when he's a baby, like when he's on the field and he has the football in his hands, he's as good of a quarterback as there is. I mean, and the baby, he could be way more of a baby and be more outspoken against this franchise for what they've done than he has been, I feel.
Here's what I think. Like, if you're at the talent level of Rodgers or like LeBron, like, do you realize what it takes to get to that level? Like, you got to take, I mean, I wouldn't even call it bad, but take a little bad with the brilliance of what they are as humans. You know what I mean? Like, they're like the most talented human beings on the fucking planet. And you're like, oh, they're a baby. They say a couple things I don't like once in a while. It's like, okay, he's also like one of the, I don't know, top 3 quarterbacks that ever lived. Like,
you can be stubborn when you're that good.
Yeah, I don't get it.
Yeah, I mean, it's one of those things when you're that talented too. Like you've earned the right to kind of you know.
Yes, 100%.
Get that chance to say that, right? I mean, listen, like certain guys in certain situations, they have more pull, right? Like if Dave Portnoy wants to change something at Barstool, he can just speak out and it'll probably get changed, right? Like different guys in different situations, right? Like
Dave Portnoy Barstool reference. This could get juicy in here.
Hey, I'm just saying. I mean, there's guys that are like clear.
Gotta
like
be careful. We don't want to get canceled over here.
I'm just saying. Like, I mean, I'm trying to think of another guy. Like, what's another good example we could have? I don't know. If
Big T wants something done at Run Pier, he gets it done.
Oh, don't go that far. You're really inflating his head. Come on.
We don't need to be.
Hey,
I know we were all thinking it, but we don't say that. You know,
he's a Masvidal. He's a Masvidal. He gets it done. He gets another title shot after getting beat for 25 straight minutes again. Gets his payday. He knows what he's doing.
All right. Well, let's dive in. Let's talk about some baseball today. Again, not the biggest slate in the world. It is interesting. We get the Rockies and the Arizona game is on a bit of an island too. So that can make it interesting for swapping purposes. But up first, we will talk about the pitchers and we'll dive into that. We got Mr. Trevor Bauer on the mound, standing head and shoulders above everyone else, pricing wise as well. I mean, he is 11.3K. And then you got Luke Weaver at 7.7. DC, I'm going to go over to you first. So in basketball right now, Russell Westbrook is becoming just preloaded into all my lineups. Is that the same with Trevor Bauer today? Is he just preloaded onto every team? Or do you think there's merit to get contrarian there and pay up for some bats instead?
Yeah, I mean, obviously baseball is just not as predictable as basketball is.
Sorry, never mind. Go ahead, DC. I'm sorry.
Oh, all good, man. I was just gonna say, I mean, you're talking Westbrook. Hasn't he gotten like 15 straight triple doubles or something? Like, yeah, baseball's just not that predictable. But of course, Trevor Bauer, like you said, Mangone, I mean, he does stand head and shoulders above the rest of these pitchers. Certainly in terms of price point.
No, there might not be anywhere to spend your salary, right, DC? Like that's kind of and there's only 4 pitchers on this slate. And obviously, I know I'm not saying that Trevor Bauer's pitching like Russell Westbrook. My point was, it just seems that easy to put him in there because all your secondary pitcher is already cheap and you'll probably have the money just to get in the bats, right?
Yeah, for sure. And you will see Trevor Bauer, I think, in higher stakes stuff and lower stakes stuff too. But like, I don't know if you go to like the 1K buy-in, I think Trevor Bauer might be 100% owned. You know what I mean? In a 30-man field of higher stakes stuff. So rightfully so, I guess. Like you said, there's not really anywhere to spend salary, even if you kind of wanted to fade him. There's not really any other good pivot options. Now, it does happen, great pitchers have bad outings. Like it does happen in baseball. So if you wanted to get super contrarian, I don't think it's the craziest thing in the world, but certainly from a projection standpoint, he stands out above the rest. He's been lights out this year, 8 or 9 strikeouts at least in every single game. This Brewers team is just pathetic, right? I mean, every pitcher is going off against these guys. So yeah, I don't know. I don't really have anything else to add to the Trevor Bauer talk other than he's clearly the best projected play, both raw fantasy points, of course, but also point per dollar, right? It's not like it's salary. It's not like he would be the most popular play on a 15-game slate at this price point, even if he was surrounded by other studs, just because the matchup's so good and he's been that great. So yeah, I don't know. Trevor Bauer, I'm going to play him. I think you guys will probably play him. I think, everybody's going to play him. I don't know really what else to add to the conversation.
Yeah, I mean, seems simple. Title, I'm sure you're going to be the same way. I'm sure on FanDuel as well, you just plug in Trevor Bauer. Is that kind of the case here on this slate?
Yeah, there's just no reason to fade him. I think it's just getting too cute. I know it's baseball, anything can happen, but I mean, you can afford the bats. It's a 4-game slate, and there's not even a second guy I could even make a case for that I think could have more raw points than Trevor Bauer today. So I think it's pretty simple. I mean, 100% in high stakes, and he's probably what he's going to be in the $1,000 something contest. But I mean, I think that's pretty right. SP2, you can get a little different. Bats, you can get different. I won't be getting different at Trevor Bauer.
Yep, I'm with you on that. No need to get different. Just play Trevor Bauer, which I will be doing on this slate. He'll be probably a cash lock as well. There you go. That's a big tip that you didn't see coming on the cash chart. Trevor Bauer will probably have a lock button on it. Would not be surprised to see that. So here, DC, we're trying to win the slate now, right? Like, yes, we've gotten our one free square possibly in there. How do we win the slate with SP2? It's definitely a spot where you can say that you could win or lose it possibly. Who is the guy that you're going to go to really separate you from the pack here?
Tough call, I think, at SP2 today. I think there are a number of ways you could go. I've been on Kyle Gibson all season long. He's been great for us these last, especially pretty much 4 starts in a row. I mean, considering he's been like the cheapest guy on the slate, pretty much all four slates he's been on there outside of opening day. Tough matchup though, man. He's got Boston coming into town. They've been crushing the ball. They do have to go on the road out of Fenway. It does look like the roof will be closed in Texas, which obviously helps Gibson a little bit. So he is my number 2. I don't feel super great about it, to be honest. Boston, I don't like targeting Boston. I don't think that's some hot take there, but I will probably roll at Gibson. I think you could go to Weaver. Alzolay has some interesting underlying metrics. He gets the Braves, though, who are, man, they are heating up after that slow start. 3 big games in a row. They're still at home. He makes me really nervous. Alzolay does, but I do think the Braves will be pretty chalky. And then Martin Perez for the Red Sox. Again, not a particularly good pitcher, but he does have a particularly good matchup against Texas, who just strikes out so much against left-handed bats. You get Martin Perez down at 5,700, so he's super cheap. Not that you particularly need the savings, but I think he's in play as well. So I don't know. The guys that I wouldn't play, I mean, Tomlin, Senzatella, Lauer, Wilson, I think are all pretty much off the slate for me, but you could go a number of different ways at SP2. Interested to see what you guys are on here.
Yeah, here's the thing to talk about with Kyle Gibson, DC. Like, yes, the White Sox, they took care of business and got the win, but Gibson was still good, right? Like if I told you, hey, for $7K, you could roster a pitcher today, and he got you 16.7 fantasy points, you'd probably sign up for that, right?
Yes, absolutely. Yep.
And that's what he did against the White Sox. And you didn't even kind of say like, hey, like you kind of said he wasn't great, but I mean, listen, 16.7 wasn't bad either.
Yeah,
right?
you were happy you had him at 6.6K on that slate.
Exactly. So I do like the call on going to a Gibson with those Red Sox getting out of that park. You've been pretty right on with him. I'm not shocked on this kind of slate. You're just kind of jumping on him because again, there's not a lot of great options to go to.
Might as well go with my dude,
Of course. Yeah. I mean, just go down with him. It's a 4-gamer, right? I mean,
right.
And there's no one else that's really that sexy out there, right? So, but could his ownership now be up, right? That's a question too to ask on a 2-game slate, DC. Like, is that going to be the chalk combination on this slate, or am I wrong?
I don't know. I think you got a kind of a better feel for what ownership might be than I do. I don't typically concern myself all that much with ownership, except when it's going to be super obvious. So like, I would guess Weaver will be the most popular SP2 just because he gets the Rockies on the road, which I totally do get that. I just think Gibson's a way better pitcher than Weaver. He does have the tougher matchup, clearly. I would guess more people will play Weaver, but it is just a guess. I don't know. Ownership can be a little bit difficult to predict sometimes.
Yeah, so let's bring in title for the SP2s. So I do think it's going to be a debate between Weaver and Gibson, and you can make a strong argument for Weaver because, hey, it's the Rockies, right? And the Rockies on the road, they have been one of the best teams to target over the past couple of years. It's been just a print fest, it feels like, when they're on the road. Title, what do you think? Is it Weaver? Is it Gibson for cash games? And then what do you think of some of these other pitchers here?
Yeah, so I agree with DC for the pitchers. He said that he's not even going to consider any lineups. I agree with 100% of those. The ones that you are thinking of are the 5 that he did say. I mean, Trevor Bauer we talked about, but then Martin Perez, Luke Weaver, Kyle Gibson. And if you want to go Alzolay for leverage a little bit, I think the Braves are going to get some ownership. He has good stuff when he's on. He has the K upside. Yeah. He has the upside in the slate, but he's my least favorite of the 4 that I did mention. Comes with the most risk. I don't like picking on the Braves. When it comes to Weaver and Gibson, I mean, those 2 are my favorites, I think. I don't think SP2, just one guy is going to be drastically higher than the other, but I do think Luke Weaver is going to be higher just because, like you said, I mean, I'd rather pick on Colorado than I would Boston, and I think more people are thinking that as well. Colorado on the road has been a team I like to target. Luke Weaver is not a great pitcher, but there isn't a great pitcher that's an SP2 on this slate. So I'm going to go Luke Weaver over Kyle Gibson. I'm still fine with Kyle Gibson. And then Martin Perez too at 5.7K. You're not going to need the salary. So if you play him, you can leave 2,000 on the table and still play Martin Perez. I wouldn't be shocked if he's the second highest scoring pitcher, raw points on the slate for this price tag. I love targeting Texas against lefties. They really struggle, but the thing is, Martin Perez just isn't very good anymore. He doesn't have that very high strikeout stuff. It's more of a matchup play that I think goes a little lower owned because salary doesn't matter as much. So Luke Weaver is my favorite SP2. Gibson and Martin Perez is a pretty much toss up for me, but Gibson's slightly better.
Yeah, I think I'd lean Gibson. The Martin Perez, too, he gets those lefties, right? So the matchup, he could obviously get it there, but you wouldn't be shocked if Texas hit him up a bit. Roof is going to be open, DC, for Weaver and the Rockies. So I don't know. Does that get you excited at all with the Roof being open? Not for maybe the Rockies, for some of these Diamondbacks, but how does that change your pitching evaluation?
I mean, that's a big downgrade for Weaver. Now that I wouldn't play Senzatella like we mentioned, but if you're right that the Roof is going to be open in Arizona, which I'm not saying I doubt you, but it's going to be 90 degrees there. It seems, I mean, it's a dry
90
heat.
Now or will it be 90 then? Like, that's always the key. Like, what
I mean, I'm seeing 93 at game time. I don't know if that's true or not. If it is,
I'd be curious. Sometimes they do. I mean, listen, they don't like their fans if they're opening it for 93. I mean, just leave it closed.
Well, it's a dry heat. It's a dry desert heat. So maybe you can open it up and, it'll cool off, of course, as the game goes on a little bit. But yeah, I mean, if that's true, the ball's going to be flying in Arizona in 85, 90 degree weather. So that would be enough for me to kind of, get fully on board the Gibson over Weaver train. I just don't think Weaver's very good. I know his results have been okay, but he's basically become a 2-pitch pitcher. He's fastball, changeup, and it's, he's not, I mean, he's throwing 93. Like, I just don't really see it with Weaver, but man, the Rockies do suck. There's just no question about it. So I get it with Weaver. It's kind of I just think Gibson's a way better pitcher, but clearly Weaver has the way better matchup, right, against the Rockies compared to against the Red Sox. So it's just kind of which road do you want to take there? I typically lean the pitcher that I think is much better, but I totally get going the other way. So yeah, but certainly, I mean, do pay attention to the Roof situation in Arizona. If it is open, it's going to be a much better hitter's park rather than I anticipated.
Sounds confirmed open from the chat. I guess the website has it so we'll go with that.
Does that
Sometimes
change
they
your
do
opinion
like,
title?
sometimes they open it at like the 4th inning. They put that there though. But if it's open from the start, then
Yeah.
it'll be all game.
Yeah, I definitely do think it's a bump down to Weaver, but the thing is, it's only a 4-game slate. Like we don't have options to really choose from. So I don't like any of the SP2s. It is a bump down, but I feel good. I think I'm on the Arizona bats for sure. So I feel good about getting a win in that situation, which is some safety there. And it's just, I'm mainly just picking on Colorado not being very good, but it is a bump down a little bit. I don't think going Gibson or Martin Perez or even Alzolay for leverage and upside is crazy on this slate.
All
Tyler,
right.
can I ask you a question? Do you think, I kind of think Martin Perez is interesting to me because almost just more from a game theory perspective, because like you mentioned, you could leave 2K salary on the table, which is an option. But I think the more interesting point there is that I think a lot of people are, if you're let's say you're considering using Martin Perez, right? You put Bauer in, you put Martin Perez in, you start building out your hitters, and then you build out the lineup you want, the stacks you want, and you realize you have 2 or 3K left on the table. What's the first step you might do? Upgrade Martin Perez to Gibson or Alzolay or Luke Weaver, right? So I almost think that Perez's ownership will be further depressed, even on a 4-game slate, just because people have the salary. Nobody wants to leave 2K. It's very rare to see people leave that kind of money in any sport, in any slate. Everybody wants to fill up the salary. Like even you and I, guys that are experienced at DFS, I still, when I got 2K left on the table, I'm like, okay, who can I upgrade? Yeah. Everybody does that, I think. So I could see Perez, not that he's a great pitcher. Again, I'm not claiming that, but you could see his ownership almost being artificially deflated just because people have the salary to spend up when maybe they don't even want to,
That's how I'm seeing it.
Yeah, I mean, I always look to when I have the 2K left. I always look, right. I mean, I at least give it a
You have to. It's just normal. I honestly think everybody does.
Of course, and you always you're like, oh, can I get Mike Trout in there? You just check, right? You just check to see if you can somehow get him in there because
the only exception is Talladega for NASCAR. That's the only exception where salary.
I don't play NASCAR, so I can't say.
You don't want to. You just want all the guys in the back, and all the guys in the back are terrible, and you just kind of roll the dice, and
that's the only thing.
It's not that fun, DC. It's you're not missing out.
Well, I'm not even like consider playing. Yeah.
There's good strategy to it. If you like a good lineup builder, we have great content here for sure. But the sweat is not like fun, right? Like a golf sweat's a good time. Like it's a 4-day sweat. The Talladega sweat's not my favorite. I'll say that.
Now, listen, I'm old enough, and as you can tell by my receding hairline, I'm old enough to remember when DraftKings first had their very first NASCAR slate. I think it was Daytona 500 NASCAR, maybe.
Yeah.
I think it was that. I think that was their first NASCAR slate ever. This must have been, I don't know, 5-6 years ago. And I did play that one. And I just remember I had no idea what was going on. I couldn't even tell who was winning, who was like. It was just crazy to me. It was chaos, and I've never played NASCAR since, and never watched a second of it. So maybe I'll get back in with the Run Pure Sports team though soon.
All right, we got Izzy in the chat saying NASCAR's his second favorite sport. So if you want that NASCAR content, check out Run Pure Sports. Use the code RPSHeater25 to sign up and get 25% off your first payment. Also want to mention our friends over at SuperDraft. Use the code RunPure to get a $100 match deposit bonus. You can check that out and use the multipliers, which is an awesome, cool, different way to play DFS that I still can't play in New Jersey. Some states you can, some you can't. Definitely wish I could. It's definitely a different way you can play, and you don't have to worry about salaries. I know some people hate how you have to put that puzzle together and figure out the salaries. You don't have to do that over at SuperDraft.
You still live in New Jersey?
Yep, I'm in New Jersey right now.
Oh, man, move somewhere with some sun, bro. Come on.
I know. Well, I've been dabbling in different ideas, so we'll see.
Right. Come over here to Denver, man. It's a bright, sunny day. It's 75 degrees. You hit up the mountains. You hang out with Big T. Come on.
Denver's not bad. I've been looking at different areas. Title's been looking at Texas. Texas, I think, is too hot, man.
Texas is good.
I don't know if I can do Texas. And there's no sports betting. I want the sports betting. Tennessee is in my radar. I thought that was a decent one, but I don't know.
Hey, move to Denver. You can fulfill my week-long hanging out with Holden that I also have to fulfill along with shaving my head. Making too many bets in the Discord this week. But yeah, you can fulfill that for me because I'm not looking forward to that one. I got to go into the health and safety protocols to avoid it.
What is this hangout with Holden bet? I missed this one.
I said this was a couple days ago. I said if my guy Jordan Alvarez did not score 25 DraftKings points, I would hang out with Holden for one whole week.
You deserve that one.
He only scored 7, so
you're gonna hang out with him for an entire week, or like?
Oh no, this is gonna be an eating the hat situation where it says I'm gonna do something, but I'll never do it. Like you can't eat the hat, right? You would like choke to death. Shaving the hat I can do. But like the hanging out with Holden for a week, that's kind of on the same level as eating the hat. It's just not going to happen.
Yeah. Also, I mean, you can just blame like I can't because of COVID. Like you can come up with something.
Yeah,
right?
yeah, exactly. I've already been listing excuses. Yep.
Yeah, and that's a good call. I think, and as long as you shave the head, you fulfill that one. That's all that matters. That's
one every 3 bets is good. Yeah.
Yeah, and listen, everyone is like, no one is going to be like it's a fun idea to hang out with Holden for a week, and then when you think about it,
it's not.
No, you think about it, you're like, no one actually wants to put you through that pain. Like everyone's like, I feel for him. I can't have that happen to him. I wouldn't want to do it. It's just let's just let this one slide.
No, you wouldn't even wish that upon your worst enemy, so no one's wishing it upon me.
Exactly.
Yeah, maybe
that was a steep bet. 25 points. So you set yourself up for that one.
Yeah, I like to get a little hyperbolic in the chat at times.
I mean, listen, that's why Title just sits there lurking with his wallet ready to go, but won't pull it out for any other bet.
Trevor Bauer, Coors Field. I like the Dodgers. Yeah, okay.
Aaron I like Rodgers money.
Is good. Yeah, thanks, Title.
I like money. That's all I gotta say.
Title's young. He doesn't like fun yet. DC, give it a couple years. Let him get a little looser. We'll get him there at some point.
He lives in Wisconsin. You live in Wisconsin. What do you expect?
I need to ship 45K like DC first, and then I'll start throwing some out there like that, having fun.
Yeah, he's you know what Title is. Title is he's overrated and a crybaby. Good riddance to him, as they're talking about Aaron Rodgers in the chat. So ridiculous. A Wisconsin boy who's a crybaby, basically, is what they're saying.
I get compared to Rodgers. I'm good with that.
Oh, same. I would love if someone could call me the Aaron Rodgers of DFS. I'll take it for sure. That'd be a great comparison for me. Let's move on. Let's talk about the catchers on this slate. And listen. I never like talking catchers too much, and this is a slate where, again, it's like, okay, I got to roster a catcher. What do we do here? We don't have the worst catchers, though, right? We have Wilson Contreras. He's an option. We have Travis d'Arnaud. We have Will Smith. So we have some of the guys, and we get Smith against the lefty. He's got a decent tag at 4.3. He seems like he's going to be the chalk. But again, I typically like to punt the position and just kind of get money to go in other spots. DC, I'll go to you. Is it just plug and play Will Smith, or are you looking at some other options?
Yeah, I think Will Smith is the best option there at 4,300. I'm sure ownership will reflect that. Will Smith has some kind of bizarre reverse splits where he's just smashed righties and not been quite as good against lefties over the course of his young career. I think maybe mostly noise. I mean, the metrics say it's legit, but sometimes you see those things reverse themselves, which I would expect there. But yeah, Will Smith, obviously a good option. Travis d'Arnaud in the middle of that Braves lineup. I think, if you're stacking Braves, I would want to include d'Arnaud as the catcher there for sure. I don't know if I would play him as a one-off if you're not on the Braves, because I do think the Braves stack is going to get a lot of ownership. And then, yeah, Wilson Contreras, I know, again, you do prefer him against the lefty himself. Not going to get it tonight against Bryce Wilson, but he's been crushing it so far. So I think those 3 guys are kind of clearly the top options. If you wanted to go to Arizona, so Stephen Vogt has been hitting a little bit, but I think we don't have a lineup yet. But I think the guy that's going to be in there tonight is Dalton Varsho. They called him up from the alternate site. He's kind of a top prospect for them. He's actually not a catcher anymore. He's an outfielder, but he's a good enough hitter to make their lineup as an outfielder, right? Like, obviously that's kind of unusual for a player that is listed at catcher. So he's 2,500. I feel reasonably confident he is going to be in the lineup. Senzatella is atrocious. We think the roof's going to be open in Arizona. So Varsho, assuming he's in there, we might not know that for a couple hours still, but assuming he is, he's the best play at catcher at 2,500, no doubt about it.
All right, we'll have to see with that lineup. I'll go over to you, Title. What are you doing at the catcher position on this slate?
Oh, if Varsho's in the lineup, he's definitely my favorite at 2,500. Arizona's my favorite stack on this slate. Love it with the roof open anyway. if Steven Vogt's in there instead, 4.1K, he'd probably be around five.
I think it'll be one of. I actually think they'll both be in the lineup. Is my prediction.
So I mean, I like Steven Vogt. Then I mean, I would like Varsho more for the savings, but I think Vogt would be very low owned then at 4.1K.
Yeah,
people will find the 200 more for Smith or the 500 for Darno. I would love going Vogt. Just differentiate yourself at catcher for one of my favorite stacks. But yeah, Will Smith is the best probably the best cash pitcher against the left or cash catcher against the lefty. Darno, if you're stacking Atlanta, like DC said, but I like the Arizona catchers today.
Yeah, and actually, I think pretty good approach to the slate. Assuming I'm right, they're both in there. Varsho and Vogt. Play them both on DraftKings. You play Vogt at catcher, play Varsho in the outfield. He's catcher outfield eligible. You don't see that very often.
Yeah.
And yeah, I mean, 2,500, he can hit. For sure he can. Not necessarily saying he will tonight, but he's a good hitter overall. Could be a way to get a little bit unique in that Arizona-Colorado game.
All right, let's move on to the first base position. And at first base, Anthony Rizzo seems like a really strong value, right? Like, we don't get Anthony Rizzo at 4K too often here in this spot. DC, I'll go to you first. Are you eating the chalk with an Anthony Rizzo, or are you looking at some other first baseman options like a Freddie Freeman on the opposite side?
Yeah, I think both first basemen in that Atlanta-Chicago game look good. I would assume those guys are kind of going to lead the slate in terms of ownership. Freeman rather has been just on fire lately. 31, 11, 22 points in these last 3 games. The Braves finally coming around. I expect more success for them tonight. So I'm in on Freeman. Rizzo 4K, great option. Bryce Wilson not really any good. If you go out to Arizona, they've got another couple guys you can play at. Arizona's like the king of the multi-eligibility on DraftKings. You've got Varsho at catcher outfield. You've got Pavin Smith at first base outfield, Asdrubal Cabrera at first base, third base. Man, you could just mix and match all these Arizona guys. So I think both those guys are good plays. Again, I don't have the Arizona lineup yet. Won't have it for a while, but I'm fairly certain both those guys will be in the lineup. I expect Pavin Smith to be leading off for Arizona, assuming he is 3,900. Senzatella is just not good. I want all the Arizona bats I can get in there, and tonight you can fit in all the Arizona bats that you want. So I do prefer Smith over Cabrera, but both guys good plays.
All right, Title, how about you? First base again, Rizzo at a nice tag, but you do like some Diamondbacks today. So what are you doing here at the first base position?
Yeah, I like Asdrubal and Pavin Smith if they're in the lineup in the top of the order. Smith, I'm expecting it lead off. Cabrera probably in the 3-hole or something. I mean, they're my favorite stack. I love picking on Senzatella. So definitely those two is my favorite. Rizzo's probably going to be chalky in the leadoff hole at 4K. I'd rather go and differentiate to the Diamondbacks guys if that's how the ownership's going. I don't know. I don't have a good grasp on where all this hitting ownership's going to go. I don't know if you guys do.
It's hard to predict today. I agree.
Yeah, I think it's going to be more spread out because the Braves, I mean, a bunch of people are going to be on them. I think the Dodgers do go low owned in this spot. I like them for tournaments a little bit, but first base, yeah, I'm going to go Diamondbacks, Cabrera, Pavin Smith. If you need a punt, Matt Duffy all the way down at 2.4K. The Braves, he's batting in the 3-hole today. That's a very good punt if you need it. The Braves are going to be throwing more of a bullpen game today. Their starting pitcher is going to be out there with 2 to 3 innings, maybe 4 at max, but Matt Duffy way too cheap in the 3-hole if you need to go all the way down.
Yep. He's definitely a cheap option that you can slide in on DK over at third base. But let's go over to second here, where I think it could be a spot where you can get a little different, right? There's a lot of different options that you can go to. DC, it looks like a decent spot where you can spend down too, but you can also spend up. So which way are you going on this slate?
Just kind of depends on how you're building, right? I think depending on how much salary you have left. If I'm not on Gibson, I think Rafael Devers is a fantastic play. There's a bunch of third basemen that look good to me. Ryan McMahon has been on fire this year. If you're not, I think lineup construction is critically important tonight on a 4-game slate where it's like the pitcher that the SP2 that you're not using, whether that be like, if you're not, if you're on Gibson, I want at least one hitter against Perez, Alzolay, and
Weaver.
Right? Like you gotta try to pick a bat or two against the pitcher that you're not on. So that's gonna kind of dictate a lot of where my teams go. Again, I do think it's a really fun slate just from a strategy perspective. But yeah, Devers, McMahon right at the top. Escobar, we keep mentioning Diamondbacks. I think rightfully so. Escobar, second base, third base eligible. You got Cabrera at first base, third base. So yeah, I think this looks like a spend position to me. You got Big T's guy, Matt Duffy hitting third for the Chicago Cubs. So
he's first and third eligible. First and third base
for a walk and a
eligible,
single, he could be your man. Yeah, there you go.
Yep. Duffy definitely makes some sense. You know who is? I don't think you guys mentioned him. Is Nick Solak, right, at 4.6. I think he can
been on fire. Yep.
Yeah, he's been hitting the ball really well. So I think he's a pretty good option you can go to. Again, we talked about Perez. He's definitely not this like scary lefty, right? And people, and we haven't gotten to the position yet, but like Joey Gallo, for instance, right? Like it's lefty, and people will just be like, oh, I don't want to play Joey Gallo and lefty. But hey, Joey Gallo could easily crush a Martin Perez. He is not very good. So I don't know. I don't mind that Nick Solak in that Texas stack possibly. If you want to get, I don't know. I guess that's a little unique today. I don't think people are really targeting up Texas. So Solak, someone that I'd be interested at the
Solak second baseman. So I was like looking for him at third base. I couldn't find him. So there you go.
Yep. So we got him there at the second base spot. Yeah. Let's go on. Let's talk about the third base because Matt Duffy's there, right? And Duffy's definitely someone that people are going to look at. You can go down to really, really cheap option. DC, you were looking at the third baseman. Talk about him here. Are we going to your boy Justin Turner? Are we going to Duffy? What's the plan here?
Yeah, I think Justin Turner is the top play against the lefty. He's just been on fire all season. Hit another home run yesterday in Milwaukee. Good place for power hitters for sure. And Eric Lauer just not good at all. So I do think Turner's the best option. But yeah, a bunch of guys at the top: Devers, McMahon, Escobar, all in play as well.
All right, Taylor, how about you? Loaded position, is Justin Turner your guy, or are you going down some cheaper options?
Well, I'll cover second first since you did skip me, but that's all right. It's not a loaded position. Escobar would be my favorite at 4.4K. If you need to go down, you don't really have too many places to go down. Escobar is definitely my favorite. The more I'm talking through this with the Diamondbacks dual position eligibility, they probably are going to come in as the top stack, picking against Cincinnati too. With the roof open. So keep that in mind. The more we're talking through it, it's just so easy to get some of these guys. Third base, Drupal Cabrera, 3.6K still there. Eduardo Escobar still there. Both have dual position eligibility. So they're my favorites again. I like Austin Riley in tournaments at 3.2K. If I'm going to get different, I expect him to go overlooked. Good power bat, picking on Alzolay a little bit. I either think Alzolay absolutely smashes in his 5-6 innings, gets like 7 strikeouts and is the pitcher you want on your team, or he just gets absolutely shelled. I mean, we know he has control problems. I think it's one or the other against his Braves offense. So I think Austin Riley is a very interesting option at 3.2K. We still have Duffy down below. And then Turner up top, like you said, but I don't think I'm going to go to Turner. I think I'm going to do the Diamondbacks or Austin Riley at third base.
I like the Riley call. And the thing with the Braves, right? They get to go up against the Cubs, and the Cubs are a really bad bullpen. So, like, keep in mind when you're doing like the stacks today, right? Like the bullpens are always good to look as target to as well. That's something that I like to look at. We sometimes ignore it, right? Because we think, oh, we got to look at the starting pitcher and target them up. But when you get that time against the bullpen, it can go a long way, and they can struggle, and they can make some really, really bad arms at times. So, makes some sense with Riley. I wouldn't want to leave him out of my Braves stack. I guess that's it for third base. Let's move on and talk about the shortstops. And at the shortstop position, there's a bunch of different guys you go to. Corey Seager always makes sense, but it is lefty-lefty. So people might get a little scared to go there. But he is Corey Seager. I mean, it doesn't matter. He's one of the better hitters. Javier Baez, he's someone you can look at, obviously, on this slate. Dansby Swanson, a lot of good options, DC. You typically like to spend up. Are you spending up here? Yeah,
this is like the worst shortstop slate that I can really remember. None of these guys I'm in love with. I mean, obviously I have a lot of respect for Gibson, so Bogarts, don't love it. Trevor Story, I much prefer him against lefties and in Coors Field, but against Luke Weaver, he's fine. Most of these guys just seem kind of okay, right? Corey Seager's got to go against the lefty himself. Baez, handed. Oh, this is one that I'm struggling with a little bit. I think I'll probably play mostly Trevor Story just for leverage against Luke Weaver, who I don't think I'm going to play. But to me, there's not kind of a clear option. I think you're going to see ownership really, really spread out at shortstop tonight.
So, DC, here's an idea. In tournaments, to be different, right? If you're playing a Cubs stack, and you fade Javi Baez, you could put Nico Horner at your shortstop.
Yeah.
And I know you want to typically spend up there, but you said it's not the best shortstop slate compared to other ones. If you plug him in at shortstop, then you obviously can't play Baez. You have to fade him. So it makes it, obviously your lineup look a little different that way. And the fact that you're punting the position, I mean, you're getting different there in that way. And you're just kind of betting on these top guys maybe to bust. And you're rostering 2 second basemen naturally because he's kind of the second baseman where most people will be putting in. I think that makes you a little bit different. What do you think about that, DC?
Yeah, I think that's a good strategy. It really is kind of a bizarre slate, right? There's just so many different directions you can go. You get to one of the, typically shortstop is, a position I'm spending at. You need to make sure that you hit on this position to compete in tournaments. I don't know tonight. I mean, Title, does one of these guys stand out to you? Because to me, it's kind of a tough call between a lot of options that I'm not in love with.
No, I absolutely agree with you. Nothing really stands out as much. And so I have 2 favorites that I'll play majority of lineups. Corey Seager. Yeah. That's just betting on the talent. I mean, the guy's unreal. His price tag's good at 4.8K, but I don't think he's going to be like overly popular against the lefty. And then Trevor Story's my other one. And for the reason you said, I mean, the roof's open because we always know Story has power, but you're getting the leverage against Weaver, which we expect to be the second most popular pitcher. So I'm going to stick with those 2 mainly. Seager is my favorite. I just love the talent with Corey Seager for the price, but nothing stands out as much as usual at this position.
I'll back you up on Seager. Eric Lauer, just kind of looking through his stuff, pretty pronounced reverse splits. Career, this is 291 batters faced against lefties, 925 against righties. So a decent sample size in his career. A 377 WOBA allowed to lefties and a 325 to right-handers. That's extremely rare to see that pronounced of a reverse split for a pitcher. So yeah, Lauer's been hit hard by lefties. We know Seager can handle lefties himself, and we didn't really mention him, but I feel like I need to at this point. Max Muncy, assuming he's in there, hitting 5th. He's another guy that crushes lefties himself. Lauer, not super great against him. I think he'll get Max Muncy at somewhat low ownership. I mean, not super low. It's a 4-game slate, but just relative to other players, 4,300 for Muncy looks pretty good to me right here.
The Dodgers are going to be low, and anytime the Dodgers are low on a 4-game, I mean, not when I say low, I mean I don't mean 4%.
It's a relatively low.
Relative to the slate, the Dodgers are going to be overlooked, and anytime the Dodgers are overlooked, that's just kind of what I like to do in tournaments. So, and you have the money on the slate too. So yeah, I like that Muncy call too.
You don't even need to get cute with them, right? 1 through 5. Betts, Seager, Turner, Smith, Muncy. I'll take my chances with that.
Yep, exactly.
Also, don't think like you have to load up on Betts too, like as your spend up. Like he's not like the greatest against lefties. I mean, he's fine, right? But it's not like Nelson Cruz against a lefty where you're just like, you're scared to have to fade it, right? So it's not a bad idea maybe to fade him in that Dodger stack in a way.
Yep, I hear you.
All right. Don't think we got too much else to say here on shortstop. Title talked about Seager. Great points there on him. And I love how DC brought in Muncy there. I think that's some really good calls. Let's head on over to the outfield. But before we do that, guys, please hit that like, hit that subscribe on the video. Helps us out a ton. We got 312 watching. We got 90 likes. I get it. It's a small baseball slate, but let's get those up for us. Get the good mojo going. Flowing into that next show that we have coming up. We got the NBA show, the Hardwood show we got JT Hayes, we got Hoop, and we got Big T. They'll be coming up next talking about the NBA slate and all the different news that's going to be coming there. So be sure to check that out. Also, after that, we will have JSU. We will have Holden. They'll be doing the final countdown show. It's a premium show that we have over here at Run Pure Sports. And then also, we're going to have on our Run Pure Bets channel, we're going to have a free NFL draft show. So while the draft's going on, they might even be giving out some bets based on how some of the picks go down. I don't know if the betting board's still up, but they'll be sweating it out regardless, right? And I get if you want to listen to, an announcer, listen to a game. I don't typically want to listen to the announcers. I don't know about you guys, but listen to the draft, right? Listen to our guys talk about all the different picks and talk about different teams, and you can interact in the chat and ask questions. It's definitely better than listening to the other guys just babbling about nothing. So I think that's a great way to go. Check it out on our Run Pure Bets channel. Let's go and talk about the outfielders now. DC, we talked about Mookie Betts at the top. We talked about all these different guys, on these different teams, right? Ronald Acuna is the guy that I'm looking to talk about, right? Because he's a great guy to add in your Braves stack if you want to go to him. He's probably one of the best spend-up options, and it's a slate where we have some money to spend. So what do you want to do with these top-end options?
Yeah, you can't really ever go wrong with Acuna. Dude's just Dude's just a baller. I'm not scared of Albert Alzolay in particular. So
matchup proof, right? I mean, that's sometimes you stay away from guys when like, oh, it's not like the best spot, but it's like, hey, he's matchup proof. He's amazing.
He's getting to like Mike Trout level to me, for it's just like, yeah, if you have the salary for Ronald Acuna, go ahead and play him. He's a fantastic play, every slate essentially. I don't know if I'd play him against, Corbin Burns or something, but other than that, Albert Alzolay not going to scare me off of Acuna. He looks awesome. Mookie Betts, like you mentioned, I think he's been a little cold to start the year. 250, 2 home runs, and OPS below 800, but I wouldn't really expect that to continue for long. So Mookie Betts, if you're, especially if you're on the Dodgers, I think is a great play. We finally saw Marcell Ozuna. Shout out to JT Hayes, by the way. He could not stop talking about the Braves and stacking against Kyle Hendricks. Man, he was right yesterday because they absolutely smashed Hendricks. So Ozuna coming around along with the rest of his teammates. I'm probably playing Gibson in a fair amount of lineups, so I won't have a ton of, JD Martinez and Alex Verdugo myself, but think they're fine. I don't know. I mean, as is usually the case with outfield, right? A lot of different ways you can go.
Yep, definitely a lot of different ways you can go in the outfield. Title, how about you? I mean, I talked about Joey Gallo against the lefty earlier. I think Joey Gallo is an interesting option that you can go to, and he's pretty cheap. What are you doing with some of these outfielders?
Yeah, so up top, Acuna's the top play, but he's going to get the most ownership. And this is just a game theory with baseball perspective. If Acuna is going to be 3-4 times the ownership as Mookie Betts is going to be, I'm just going to take the chance on that day.
I don't think that will be true.
I think it will. I think Acuna is going to be the chalkiest guy and the hitter on the slate, to be honest.
3 or 4 times the ownership of Betts? No way, man.
I don't think Betts has played. I truly believe Acuna is going to be – he's going to be over 50% in cash games. And then tournaments is always follows. But if you think it's going to be relatively closer, give me Acuna all day. He's the much better
I think it'll be
play on paper.
Yeah.
All right. Yeah. So if you think it's close, Acuna, I don't think it's close. So I like Betts more in tournaments. Acuna is the better play in cash games. I like we don't have this. Yeah, we do have the Dodgers lineup. AJ Pollock's in there at 3,100. Yep. Just another Dodger that I like throwing in on the stack. I like going to the bottom of these some of these orders on a 4-game slate. Like if you want to go Braves, we talked about Austin Riley in the 7 hole. There's Dansby Swanson in the 6 hole. You can do a wraparound stack like that. That's how you get different on these 4-game slates. Pick good teams, just stack the bottom of the order, and the bottom of the order is not always bad to do. So I like him down there. Jason Hayward in the 6 hole at 3,200 too. Bottom of the Cubs order a little bit. Think he gets overlooked. Ozuna on FanDuel's 2,600 only. I think that's way too cheap. DC was talking about it. DK is a little more expensive, but he is in play. And then if you want more leverage on DraftKings outfield to get Luke Weaver, Charlie Blackmon's only 3.5K. That's a really good price tag with the roof open against one of the chalkier pitchers. So outfield's pretty solid. I think you involve more of the outfield in your stacks because there's so many good ones at different positions. Like you said, Joey Gallo, I mean, he's way too cheap. He has all the power. He's going to get ownership too. So my favorites, Acuna is the best play up top. Betts is the pivot. I like Pollock in the stacks. I like Hayward down there. And then the Pavin Smith, he's outfield eligible. Like DC was saying, I like the Diamondbacks too.
Yeah, so DC, I was just looking around, right? And since I'm in NBA streets, I'm in the MLB streets, I miss some guys. I'm not all full up on the rosters yet, right? So I was just looking around. I think Texas could be an interesting stack today. What is an Eli White, right? Like, again, like on these like goofy slates where it's like a 4 or 5 gamer, sometimes just punting a position completely could be worth it. Like a Varsho was a great example. I like that one the most, but I don't know if he's in the lineup yet. So I was just kind of looking around. Like, are there any cheap basement guys like Eli White? Is he worth considering at the bottom of that Texas lineup? Is David Dahl's at 2.9, so not exactly, but I'm just looking for like the super cheap guys like 2.2, because sometimes that could be the difference in, jamming in one more player throughout your lineup. So are there any like bottom of the basement outfielders that are really interesting plays that no one's going to be on?
When you opened that little monologue there, I was going to give you a hard time for, we're almost into May here about not knowing the baseball rosters, but then you mentioned Eli White, who I also had to plug into FanGraphs over here in my spreadsheets to see what he's up to, because I also don't know much about him. He appears to be very, very bad at hitting baseballs. So
he doesn't look good. I'll admit that.
And the metrics don't look great for him. So, I mean, still, a dirt cheap outfielder against Martin Perez, you can do worse. But I wouldn't have a lot of faith in him, I guess. If you need him, I think he's fine. But no, to answer your question, I don't actually see many super cheap outfielders that I think are worth playing tonight.
Marisnik 2.8K is about as low as I'd go, I think, in the 7-hole. Hayward, Marisnik, little
Big
6,
T's
7
guy,
mini
Big T's
stack.
guy, Jake Marisnik. There you go.
I mean,
there you go. Yeah, I was just someone asked in the chat, like, well, what are you spending on, on this slate? Well, like, I'm just building around. I'm trying to make like a unique roster construction. I mean, that's one of the keys on this slate. I want to make a smart team, right?
I've been building rosters while we've been talking, or a roster while we've been talking. There are players to spend on for sure. Like, I mean, it's not that hard to spend your salary. Like at the outfield, you can play an outfield of Acuna, Betts, JD Martinez right there. Like those are the 3 best plays, I think. So there is places to spend for sure.
There's still Freddie Freeman, Seager. There's studs on the slate. I would worry more about how you're like Mango's saying. You worry about how your roster looks and correlates in baseball more than you look at, oh, I have $500 left over. I need to upgrade this to that to get a one-off off of a 4-man stack or something. It's more about the construction than the salary, but there is spend ups.
Yeah, like if I had, for instance, and this is just a quick example, if I had a Texas stack, right? And right now I have a Dodger stack mixed into some Texas, right? But I was looking to fill it out. And let's say I had the money, I had $1,000 to go Jason Hayward or go Eli White. I'll probably just go Eli White, right? Because it's just to correlate, right? Again, I know they're both not the best players. Now, if you're telling me Eli White or Mike Trout, probably a no-brainer. Let's go Mike Trout. But I'd say that's some of the stuff that I'd be looking at on this. Like, also, like one thing I was doing as I was building out my lineups in DC, this is a good tournament thing. Like I was just building a team out and I landed at third base and I didn't have Turner in there yet as a spend up, but I saw Duffy there. It's like, is Matt Duffy a guy you want to play as a
no?
Like that's not right, correct?
I don't want to play Matt Duffy. No, you won't find any Matt Duffy on my team. So I'll say that right off the bat.
Yeah, I just think he's like a bad one-off option because I think he's going to be someone that people look at his salary saver. You get what I'm saying, Tyler? Right? Sometimes these cheap guys at positions, if everyone's going to be playing them and they're like an 80% owned play, you don't want to play him as a one-off. Like Gio Urshela was a great example the other day. When the Yankees were playing, you didn't want Gio just as a random one-off at that massive ownership when he was 3.1K against Bruce Zimmerman. It just didn't make sense. I remember when I built out my lineups, I landed on Urshela at one point. I was like, it just doesn't make sense for tournaments. Cash games, sure, it's not a big deal. But I think that's something to talk about when you're looking at roster construction.
Yeah, you don't want to play the guy like Matt Duffy where like you remember FanDuel had that like home run derby a few years ago at the live final. Like if Matt Duffy was in that, I'm not sure he would have won. I don't know who ended up winning among the DFS guys, but like Matt Duffy, I think he would have been like the third place, the bronze medalist in the FanDuel DFS home run derby. So we'll leave Matt Duffy to Big T and avoid him ourselves. Now he's going to hit a home run for sure. So
listen, I'm not bragging about my sports accomplishments, but we've seen some videos on Twitter. Our very own Hoop, the baseball swing was not pretty. We saw
that was yes.
The light was in the way. I heard a lot of excuses on that one. And I remember Empire had a video out there. Empire didn't go so well. He was blaming the pitcher for throwing just absolute garbage.
Empire's one of those guys you don't want to come after. The guy's got too much money, so I'm not going to say anything bad about his.
Agreed 100%. I love Empire. Yeah, you're not wrong about that. Definitely not someone to come after.
DC picks his smart fights.
Yes. Pick your battles. That's an important life lesson right there.
Yeah, pick your battles. You pick the Notre Dame lawyers to box, right?
Yes, exactly.
But
the Notre Dame lawyers and the bosses.
Yes. So also the Instagram models, I guess you could say, or Instagram influencers as well. So influencers, right? Random. There you go. So. But that's all the people DC's talked about boxing against. We can use that for another podcast. But
good time to sign off. Good sign there.
let's talk about the stacks now, because I saw some people in the chat. They were saying, "What are your favorite stacks today?" I saw some people talking about the Rockies, talking about the Diamondbacks. Right? Are they your stacks? DC, give me your top 3 stacks on this 4-game slate.
I will say that I think you could legitimately stack almost any team, including the Brewers, just because 100% of people are going to have Trevor Bauer and 0% are going to have Brewers. So like, you don't need to hit very often, right? It needs like a 3 to 5% chance of hitting to make it a profitable play in the long run. But okay, I'll answer your question for real. My top 3 stacks, the Diamondbacks, number 1 against Antonio Senzatella, who I mean, maybe he'll pitch well tonight, but we know for sure he's just not good at pitching.
You also know that Rocky's bullpen is a disaster, right? Like that's another thing to mention. Targeting these bad bullpens on these slates, not a bad idea.
Yeah, for sure. So Diamondbacks number 1 for me. I will go with the Dodgers number 2. They're kind of growing on me the more I look into Eric Lauer in this matchup in Milwaukee. And then the Braves, number 3 against Alzolay. They've just been so hot. I'm a believer in their current hot streak. I think they're going to keep hitting against Alzolay. So, yeah, I'll go D-backs, Dodgers, Braves. But like I said, you could make a case for a lot of these teams, to be honest.
All right. We'll go over to you, Title. Give me the top 3 stacks. No Coors Field on the slate, but you got the Rockies. So any chance you're going there? What are your top 3 stacks of the day?
It's sad that you went to DC before me because Diamondbacks are my favorite, as most people probably know. The Dodgers are my second favorite when you're adding in ownership into it all, because I do think they get overlooked. And then, yeah, I mean, it's hard not to have the Braves 3. If you need a different team at 3, I would say the Cubs. I'm fine picking on Atlanta without really a starting pitcher, more so of a bullpen game. But I think the Diamondbacks are clearly my favorite, especially with the roof open. I do think they are going to be the highest owned the more we talk about it with dual position eligibility, though. But I like the Dodgers as the lower owned than usual today.
Yep. I think that's a good call there. I love to spend up on those Dodgers there. I think it's a good way to go. Here, DC, one last question before we get into your play of the day. Max Muncy, do you put him at second or you put him at first? I was thinking first base could make it a little unique, right? Within my Dodger stack. What do you think of that?
Yeah, I think, obviously first base looks like the stronger position overall. So you will be more unique putting him there. But I mean, either way, just depending on kind of where you're going with roster construction.
Yeah, I always like to look at like what the downgrades are going to be. Like if I put Muncy at first and then I put a second baseman in with my.
What's interesting is with the Dodgers stack, there's not really a first baseman or second baseman that you would play in either spot. You know what I mean? Like normally I'd say, or if you're starters, you just put Muncy in the spot to fit your stack. But like you don't really have any other guys you want to play at either position. So yeah, I could see going either way there.
Yeah, I always like to look, and Title, I don't know about you, but like I like to look at like what. If they got the multiple eligibility and like there's second base typically feels like a more uncomfortable position than first base, the roster. Like if I plug that guy in there and then I play 2 second basemen naturally, like then I can just play not whoever I want, right? But it just gives me a different kind of look than other people. And that's what I try to look for in tournaments. I want to build smart lineups, but also don't want to be like an idiot. I don't want to just plug in like 5 Eli Whites and act like, oh, I got all these 1% guys, I'm set.
Yeah, no, I hear what you're saying for sure. I think if like it makes sense if you went Max Muncy at second today and didn't play, or at first today, excuse me, and didn't play Eduardo Escobar at second, then I think you're different but if you play Max Muncy at first and Eduardo Escobar at second, because these Diamondbacks have dual position eligibility, they'll be filled in most people's rosters as the one-offs or the mini stacks and stuff. So I think if you do the Muncy at the first base, which is definitely the better position with Freddie Freeman and stuff there, don't play the chalk second baseman, then go somewhere else. And then you get different like that.
Title, I can tell you kind of having the same thoughts as me. Where like, think about your roster tonight, right? Like think about how you get a little bit different, get a little bit away from the field. And some of that is, making sure that you have hitters against the pitchers that you don't have on a short slate. Some of that is playing hitters at different positions. I mean, there's just a lot of things. Like on a 13, 14 game slate, you don't really need to think about that kind of thing because you're just trying to score the most points. Because ownership's
so much spread out on those. You don't need to care about getting different as much. Where this one, these slates, you do. Yes,
each individual roster on specifically tonight's slate should have some thought behind it, at least in my opinion. I mean, and of course every team does, but further than just this is my favorite stack, these are my pitchers, these are the guys I think are going to score the most points. There's more to it in terms of building your rosters tonight.
Yeah, and that'll lead into my play of the day. So the reason why I was thinking of it is because I like Nick Solak here, right? I think targeting some of these Texas guys is something I'm going to do. I'm not going to maybe full stack it, but I might get exposure to some. And I think Nick Solak is one I want to. So I was thinking of doing the Muncy in the first and then Solak at the second base position. So that'll be my play of the day. Title, we'll go to you. Give us your play of the day.
I'm going to go with the bottom half of this Atlanta order, and I'm going to go Austin Riley in the 7 hole at 3.2K. A little pivot off of Matt Duffy, who I expect to get most of the ownership at 2.4K. We like this Atlanta side. We expect them to get a lot of ownership though up top with Acuna and Freeman and stuff like that. It gets you different, allows you to pay up for the Dodgers bats and stuff we like. Give me Austin Riley.
All right, good call. DC, we'll go to you. Do we get a pitcher? Do we get 2 hitters, 1 hitter? What do we get on this 4-game slate? Give me your play of the day.
Listen, man, Kyle Gibson's on the play. He's got to be on the basement play of the day for sure. Kyle Gibson, the mom's basement pitcher of the day. I do have to say, I do agree very much with title. I think Austin Riley is just a straight up better play than Matt Duffy. Like, even in cash games, I think he's a better play. He's just a much better hitter, especially when you take into account what I assume will be a fairly significant ownership gap in tournaments. So just want to point that out. That's a very good call where I'm standing. And then my hitter of the day, I feel bad because we didn't even mention him when we were talking about first and second base. Kind of came onto him a little bit late, but Max Muncy handles lefties as well as anybody. Eric Lauer, reverse splits, good hitting park, obviously Milwaukee. And I think Max Muncy will be relatively low owned compared to what he should be, at least in my opinion. So Max Muncy, the mom's basement hitter of the day.
Yep, love that call a lot. I think that's a good one. But that will wrap it up for us, guys. Thanks a lot for joining us. While you're getting out the door to head to the NBA Hardwood Show, hit that like, hit that subscribe on the video. Helps us out a ton. One last question we'll say. Travis Duarte says, $1,400 too much to leave on the table. DC, what's the answer to that one?
No, totally fine on this slate.
Yep. Feel free to leave salary on the table. Check out our core plays over at Run Pure Sports. Use the code RPSHeater25 and get 25% off your first payment to see where we are going. But that'll wrap it up for us. Thanks a lot for joining us. For me, Mangone, DC, and Titletown. See you guys later.
Good luck, everybody.